It's John Black, JBSC. The last video, basically the whole point of my story is that I got taught to be lazy. You know what I mean? I never had to do anything, you know what I mean, when it came to schoolwork or whatever. And then my father doubled up on this, okay, even though he was never home and I was basically living alone. He taught me also not to have to do anything, to be entitled, you know what I mean? Like, here's an example. Like, one time I was 10, I stole this wallet shoplifting, okay? And it was at Kmart's or wherever it was. So anyways, he comes down with a bunch of attorneys. You know, they always let me go. You know what I mean? Here's another story. Like, I would get, when I was 16, I was getting speeding tickets, you know what I mean, all the time. And my punishment, okay, well, here's a story before that. I became a paper route. I was making about $20 a week doing this paper route. I didn't have that many customers, you know what I mean, maybe 20 customers or something. So I'm making $20 a week. So he started giving me an allowance of $20 a week. So in my mind, I'm thinking, well, why the hell do I got to go deliver papers if he's just giving me $20? So I quit my paper job. Okay. Then when I was 16, I started getting, like I said, the speeding tickets. So what was my punishment? I get a speeding ticket, say for $100, $150. My punishment would be that I would have to pay the ticket, but at the same time, he would raise up my allowance $20 a week. You know what I mean? So I got a speeding ticket, and my punishment was that he would give me a $20 increase in my pay, and then after 5 or 8 weeks, the fine would be paid off, and now I have a $20 raise. You know what I mean? So he taught me to be lazy, to be entitled, and then if you combine that into my childhood, the victimology. See, victimology and entitlement are basically the same thing in a way. They come together and screw a person up over more than you can ever think. So I'm thinking, in my mind, I'm entitled, and then after that, I had every opportunity to succeed in life. You know what I mean? But I had 2 crappy parents. I didn't feel loved, and when I got my first girlfriend, that was it. I loved her, and blah 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 blah. And we got engaged. 2 years, never fought, not one argument. Loved each other, blah blah blah. But 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, I went to boot camp, and she's out cheating on me. Well, we were engaged. That just destroyed me. And now if she would have just said I'm sorry and actually made it up instead of just saying I'm sorry and that's it, fuck you, I said I'm sorry, so if you can't accept that, screw you. But my philosophy was, well, you owed me something now. Now you have to treat me good for a king. Like I treated this woman like a queen for 2 years. Now and she's not really done anything for me except for hang out with me and spend all my money. You know what I mean? So I was like, well, put me first before everybody else for a month. Nope, she couldn't do it. And because of that, I told her straight up, I'm not going to do anything ever again. I'm just going to be nothing. I will never help you. I will never do anything, ever. So 10 years later, she finally broke up with me. But my whole thing is that it just made me be the victim. You know what I mean? Instead of just saying, screw this woman, I'm going to go out on my own, I'm going to succeed, I said, no, I'm going to be a victim. I'm going to say I'm a victim because I had crappy parents and now I have this crappy woman. I'm starting out in my 18s or 20s, and I've never been loved by anyone, and I'm a victim, I'm entitled. And then we had kids, and then because I could have easily I actually came back from the military thinking that my dad would buy me a business, and he would have. He would have bought us a business. We would have ran the business, and I would have lived off of that business money. But I didn't do that because I refused to give this woman, my wife, more than I've already given. I've already given her everything. But it was easier to be the victim. And so when I started out at 18, with this woman, I'm getting $5,000 a year on welfare. My dad is giving me $15,000 in cash. It's $20,000 tax free. So you might as well say it's $25,000 if I was paying tax. To do nothing, to be a bum. And that's what it taught to me. That's what it taught me to be, was a bum. Taught me that and then after 5 years of that, for someone coming up and saying, "Hey, go get a job," that was like telling me to go fly and defy gravity. It was just, I was like, what? Have a job? I deserve not to work. I deserve my dad to give me money. I deserve the government to give me money. I deserve everyone to give me stuff because I have had a crack ass life. Okay? And all that did was destroy my entire life. I had that victimology most of my life, up until like my 40s. I had that entitled, I'm entitled because I have been victimized. I have had a crappy life. But that just ruined my life. And when I go into slavery and black people, you're going to hear a analogous story about how because you're a victim, you become entitled. You become entitled because you have been a victim. Like life is fair. Life is not fair. Okay, if you think you're a victim, you get up off the ground and you wipe yourself off and you dust yourself off and you go continue, because life isn't fair. And if you stay that victim, you're going to always think you're entitled. You're always going to be the victim. You'll never get out of it. After 5 years, that was it. I mean, now I've had a whole child life where I never had to do anything, never had to learn, never had to work, never had to do anything. And when I do something wrong, there's always someone right behind me with 5 attorneys. There's always someone behind me with cash to pay off my fines, to pay off my whatever, to bail me out. You know what I mean? And what did that do for me, though? It made me into a loser. You know what I mean? A guy who has had every opportunity economically, intelligence. My intelligence was vastly higher than most of the average human. I had every opportunity. I was white. I had every opportunity in the world to succeed, and yet I didn't. And whose fault is that? Mine. I mean, yes, at first, maybe when I was 18 or 19, sure, I could blame my parents. But after that, I didn't do it, but I should have been blaming myself. You know what I mean? Well, I'm with a crappy ass wife that doesn't love me. Well, that's my fault. I can get off my ass and use my feet to walk out the door and leave this bitch. You know what I mean? But I did not do that. Okay? And that's why and I'll go into my life, my childhood and my life later on in videos, but I'm bringing this up now because I want you to see how this is going to relate to my next few videos, okay? Especially when I'm talking about black people, because black people, as a group, have experienced the same exact thing that I am describing to you right now, where you're a victim, you get money from the government, and now you feel like you're entitled. You know what I mean? Because you've had a crappy life, you've had to live in racism, you've been put down by society, and therefore you're entitled. You're entitled to everything. Okay? And don't get me wrong, at first, black people were entitled. They did deserve, they were victims, you know what I mean? And up until 2000, and then this millennium, this century, blacks did deserve, they were victims. And they did deserve you know, a step up in life, a helping hand. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with that. That's a great thing. That's great. But you'll see later on, once you have that mindset, and you give it that mindset to your children, and their children gives them to their children, that mindset, that victimology is so hard to overcome, man. It is so hard to overcome. So I hope when, you know, I'm talking about black people in the future here in videos, you understand that I feel for them more than anybody, because I have been in that same exact situation. Maybe not as bad of a situation in some ways, but bad in other ways. You know what I mean? Because obviously no one was being racist against me because I was white. You know what I mean? So it's not, no analogy is exact. You know, women really have a hard time understanding what an analogy is, but an analogy doesn't mean exactly the same. If it was exactly the same, we wouldn't call it an analogy. We would call it exactly the same. You know what I'm saying? So my situation obviously is not exactly the same, but it parallels to the black community and the black plight very much so, because I was a victim and I made myself a victim. You know what I mean? Yes, I was a victim by my parents. I was a victim by my wife. But then I chose to stay the victim because it was easy. It was easy. And my depression, I mean, I literally went totally bonkers insane, which I'll go into that later. But my insanity was literally, you know, done. I didn't have any sanity at this time, and that was a double whammy on me. Now I have to get over the victimology, and I have to get over all these mental problems of depression and OCD and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But so the next video I'm going to do is going to be on race and slavery, okay? Because people, again, I'm going to tell you the left side or the woke religion and the right side or the Christian religion. I'm going to give their you know, their view on it, okay? My view is totally different. My view is always never with everybody else. My view is always, I'm the only one. I'm always alone. I'm always alone in my view. Every time. And it doesn't matter how logical I am, how much common sense I use, how much data I use, how much facts I use. It doesn't seem to matter. I can never bring anyone over to my side of way of thinking. Never. Never can, never would, never will. Never. It's just never, it's not possible. You know? Well, listen, you guys all have a great day. And my next video will be about race. And if you, I'm so surprised that people don't know what race is. And then when you explain it to them in a logical way, prove it to them. Like, go Google it. Go to Wikipedia. You know what I mean? They won't do it. They'll just disbelieve you, like you're like some kind of moron, like you're an idiot. Just like with the green stuff and the gender stuff. Everyone just looks at me like I'm a total moron. But whatever.